The world's balance of power is shifting. Slowly, but surely. For over a century, the United States has stood at the top, militarily, economically, culturally. The American dream shaped the modern world. But today, 5 nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, are quietly building an alternative. Together, they form Brics. And if they succeed, they could reshape the entire global order. Here's how each country is playing its role. Number 1. Brazil. When people think about who could challenge America's global dominance, Brazil isn't the first name that comes up. But quietly, through BRICS, Brazil is becoming a key player in creating a new world order that doesn't revolve around Washington. First, Brazil is using BRICS to demand more representation for developing countries. Right now, global institutions like the United Nations, the IMF, and the World Bank are heavily influenced, some would say controlled, by America and its allies. Through BRICS, Brazil is pushing for reforms. It's saying, hey, why should just a few countries make all the big decisions for the rest of the world? Brazil wants a system where emerging economies have real power, not just a seat at the table. Second, Brazil's economy gives it real leverage. It's a massive exporter of food, energy, and minerals. And it's not just selling to the West anymore. Brazil is deepening its trade with China, India, Russia, and South Africa, shifting global trade flows away from traditional American influence. If Brazil keeps building stronger ties with fellow BRICS nations, it helps weaken the old global trade networks that America once dominated. Third, Brazil is using BRICS to challenge the US dollar. Right now, most international trade happens in dollars, and that gives America huge power. But BRICS has started serious talks about creating its own currency or trading directly in local currencies. Brazil supports these moves because it knows that reducing dependency on the dollar means reducing America's ability to pressure other countries through sanctions and financial systems. If BRICS creates a working alternative to the dollar, it would be a historic shift, and Brazil would be right at the center of it. And there's also a cultural shift happening. Brazil is positioning itself as the leader of the global South, a voice for Latin America, Africa, and other regions often ignored by the US and Europe. Through BRICS, Brazil is saying, we're not just junior partners anymore. We are equal players. Now, let's be real, Brazil still faces big internal problems, political instability, economic ups and downs, and deep divisions at home. But on the international stage, through BRICS, it's helping to build a system where power is shared, not monopolized. It's slow, it's quiet, but it's happening. And if Brazil, alongside its BRICS partners, succeeds, it could mark the end of the world America built after World War II, and the beginning of a new era where no single country calls all the shots. Number 2. Russia. Russia has always been a master at playing the long game, and even with heavy sanctions and pressure from the West, it's using BRICS to challenge America's global dominance in ways that are hard to ignore. First, Russia is shifting the balance of global energy. For decades, America and its allies controlled much of the world's oil and gas markets. But Russia is flipping that script. It's selling more energy to China, India, and other BRICS members, creating a powerful energy network outside of Western control. If countries can rely on Russian oil and gas without going through American-influenced systems, it chips away at US economic power. Second, Russia is challenging the dominance of the US dollar. Within BRICS, Russia is one of the loudest voices calling for alternatives to the dollar. It's pushing for trade in local currencies, and even for the creation of a new BRICS currency. If they succeed, it would be a direct blow to America's financial strength, because right now, the US dollar gives Washington massive influence over the global economy. Third, Russia is using BRICS to build political alliances outside the West. As America tries to isolate Russia, Brics offers it a lifeline, a platform to form partnerships, trade deals, and defense ties without depending on the West at all. And it's not just symbolic. Russia is investing heavily in infrastructure projects, resource deals, and military cooperation with fellow Brics members and other countries inspired by the BRICS model. Through BRICS, Russia isn't just surviving American pressure, it's turning that pressure into an opportunity to lead a new, alternative global system. Number 3. India. India is increasingly becoming a key player in the global order, and its involvement in BRICS is central to its strategy of challenging American dominance. Through this powerful alliance of emerging economies, India is not only enhancing its own global standing but also shifting the balance of power. One of the primary ways India is challenging America is by advocating for a multipolar world. For decades, the US has maintained dominance in global politics, economics, and military affairs. However, India is actively working with the BRICS nations to create a world where no single country holds all the power. It wants a system where countries have equal say in shaping global decisions, and BRICS is a platform to challenge US-centric policies and Western-dominated international organizations like the IMF and the World Bank. Economically, India is positioning itself as a leader in the de-dollarization movement. For much of the 20th and 21st centuries, the US dollar has been the dominant currency in global trade, giving America substantial influence over the global financial system. But India, alongside countries like Russia and China, is advocating for the use of local currencies in international trade and business. This shift would undermine the US dollar's dominance and help countries in BRICS gain more control over their own economic futures. India is also leading the way in tech innovation within BRICS, positioning itself as an alternative to the Western tech giants. While the US dominates Silicon Valley, India is making remarkable strides in fields like artificial intelligence, space exploration, and renewable energy. Through BRICS, India is helping develop and share technological expertise that can rival Western advancements. In fact, India's digital diplomacy is another aspect of its growing influence, as the country has become a tech hub for the world, offering solutions in IT services, software development, and even cybersecurity. Additionally, India is building stronger energy partnerships within BRICS, which directly challenges America's energy hegemony. India is looking to diversify its energy sources away from the West, partnering with Russia and other BRICS countries on nuclear energy, natural gas, and renewable energy. This move reduces India's reliance on American-led energy structures and increases its bargaining power in global energy markets. India also advocates for Global South interests and is positioning itself as the voice of developing nations. For years, global institutions have been heavily influenced by Western powers, but India is making sure that the voices of the Global South are heard within Brics. By championing the economic, social, and political needs of developing countries, India is challenging America's long-held control over global policy. India's push for fair trade, sustainable development, and climate justice makes it a key ally for other nations seeking to escape the grip of Western-dominated systems. Moreover, India's cultural soft power is on the rise, giving it an edge over the US. While American culture, Hollywood, pop music, and tech has long dominated global media, India is spreading its own cultural influence. From Bollywood to yoga, and its growing influence in global sports and fashion, India is asserting itself as a global cultural hub. Through BRICS, India's cultural exports are gaining momentum, fostering better ties and mutual respect among developing nations. Finally, India's strategy isn't just about standing in opposition to America. It's about offering a new way forward. Through BRICS, India is promoting a more inclusive and cooperative form of global governance, one where countries of the Global South have a voice, where development is about shared growth, and where wealth isn't concentrated in the hands of a few Western powers. India sees BRICS not as an anti-American alliance, but as a way to reshape global governance to benefit all countries, not just those aligned with the US. Number 4. China. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, China. If any one country truly challenges America's position at the top, it's China. Over the last 4 decades, China has transformed itself from a poor, rural country into the world's second-largest economy. Some experts believe it could overtake the US economy by the early 2030s. China's Belt and Road Initiative is reshaping trade routes across Asia, Africa, and Europe. Through massive investments in ports, railroads, and energy projects, China is creating a web of economic influence that the US struggles to match. Militarily, China is expanding its navy, building artificial islands in the South China Sea, and aiming to become the dominant power in the Indo-Pacific region. Technologically, it leads in 5G, artificial intelligence, and green energy. It's challenging American companies and American standards everywhere, from Africa's mobile networks to Europe's electric cars. But it's not all smooth sailing. China faces internal problems, slowing economic growth, an aging population, and rising political tensions at home. Still, with its massive resources, technological ambition, and global reach, China remains the biggest single challenge to American supremacy. Our last country is South Africa. South Africa might seem like the smallest player in BRICS, but it plays a crucial role. As Africa's most industrialized nation, South Africa acts as the gateway to the entire continent. And Africa, with its growing population and untapped resources, is the future of global markets. South Africa leads efforts to unite African countries politically and economically. Through forums like the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's pushing for a stronger, more integrated Africa, one less dependent on Western aid and more focused on South-South cooperation. In BRICS, South Africa ensures that African interests are represented. It champions the idea of a multipolar world, where no single country, not even America, dictates the rules. South Africa's role might be more diplomatic and symbolic, but it's critical for making BRICS a truly global coalition. Individually, none of these countries can match the full power of the United States. But together, they're building alternative trade routes, financial systems, military partnerships, and technological networks. They're offering the world a different vision, one where power isn't concentrated in the hands of a single country. Of course, BRICS faces huge internal challenges, political instability, economic differences, even rivalries among themselves. But the trend is clear. The unipolar world dominated by America is giving way to a more complex, multipolar one. And BRICS is right at the center of that transformation. The next decade will tell us whether this alliance becomes a true counterweight to American power, or just a fascinating footnote in history.